Gentlemen, let's broaden our minds.
The truth shall set you free.
You can't handle the truth.
We came, we saw, we kicked its ass.
That's not how the Force works.
I'm gonna make him an offer again.
I'd buy that for $1.
Hasta la vista, baby.
This woman has to be gotten to a hospital.
Hospital? What is it?
It's a big building with patients. That's not important right now.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I break your concentration?
I can do this all day.
Yeah, I know.
Hello and welcome to the Creative Control Movie Podcast, brought to you by Zito's Gang. This is where we reshape cinema for the better. I'm your host, Ken Ackler, and thank you for joining us for episode 9. Joining me today is fellow Zito Gang star Neil, and I'm also pleased to welcome back Alex to the podcast. Welcome, gentlemen.
Well, thank you.
So today's episode is all about having creative control over He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. This has been in development hell for a number of years now, with many different directors attached to it at different points, rewriting of scripts. The latest news we had was the character of He-Man had been cast in Noah Centineo, I think it's pronounced. He was in 2019 Charlie's Angels, To All the Boys and its sequel. He was also just announced at DC Fandom that he'll play Atom Smasher in Dwayne Johnson's Black Adam. So he did post some pictures of himself on Instagram bulking up. It's due for release in March 21, but there's no way that's going to be happening now because they haven't started filming. But there's been no updates from the studio in regards to the film and when it's going to be released or when it's going to start filming. So it's being directed by Aaron Nee, indie filmmakers, most noted for their 2015 film Band of Robbers. So what we're going to talk about today is a little bit about the tone of the movie, how we would go forth with it, whether we can have like an epic adventure, something a little bit more kid-friendly, and then we're going to go down some casting suggestions of all kind of the main characters. So what we'll do, gents, we'll start with the kind of theme of the show. Either of you want to go first?
Well, for me, I wanted to go, obviously, I know it's, originally it was all about, obviously, the kids and the toys and that kind of stuff, but it can still be rated PG-13, but I want to go a little bit more adult and go a bit more sort of Lord of the Rings / sort of women's Game of Thrones kind of style. So a little bit sort of medieval-esque, but obviously I know the cartoon, they had a lot of sort of like technology and that kind of stuff, so you can still kind of throw in a bit of sort of technology side. I was kind of thinking along the lines of like it's only being like different kingdoms, a bit like Game of Thrones, so maybe the different kingdoms have like different levels of technology as well, so that way you can sort of differentiate between sort of the good guys and the bad guys, that kind of thing. Maybe their technology is different in the way that they look and use it and that kind of thing. Just make it a little bit more sort of adult orientated in terms of just seriousness, really, so it's not it's not cartoony and sort of tongue-in-cheek, but just takes it as a much more serious sort of concept. Hence the reason for me, I would probably get rid of the Prince Adam sort of changing into He-Man kind of concept, and for me it would just be, well, he'll go on sort of a hero's journey and come out of the other side of it as He-Man as opposed to Prince Adam, so you haven't got this kind of as much as I had the powers of a great visual, and you can still kind of have that, but rather than he changes sort of and having maybe two actors and one changing into the other, that kind of thing, just keep it sort of pretty straight. Similar to Dolph Lundgren sort of aspect in that sense, in that,
he was just like He-Man the whole way through, wasn't he?
Yeah, it's just, I mean, obviously, if we're going to go on to sort of story ideas a little bit later on, the idea of starts off as sort of Prince Adam and sort of evolves into the hero of He-Man towards the end. But yeah, that's kind of my initial sort of thoughts on style and tone, if you will.
Cool. I'm kind of on the same kind of track as you. I think I'm in two minds. If it was purely for me, I'd probably make it a little bit more Game of Thrones, but with the technology, because we know they have spaceships and guns and lasers and all kinds of weapons and stuff. But you also have the sorcery part of it, so you got it's like magic and technology. But then the other part of me is like, well, if I'm going to be an executive, CEO, it's my company. I'm thinking I'd probably balance it along those Marvel lines of where it can be a little bit mature. But it will still have that little bit of comedic element to it, a little bit of fun into it, because I want to sell them toys. I want to make some bank. And I think He-Man is the perfect marketing tool for that kind of stuff. You know, when it launched in the 80s, it was just a phenomenon. And I've still got all the toys up in my loft somewhere in black bags, and I'm hanging on to those for my kids. But yeah, I think that I like the concept of the not changing, like the hidden persona kind of Prince Adam He-Man thing. I would if I was going to go down that route, I think what I would probably do is have that kind of hero's journey, him coming across Castle Grayskull and meeting the sorceress and stuff, but maybe having that change where he takes on the power and the responsibility, so you still get that iconic moment of I have the power kind of thing, but then once he has that, he kind of possesses it. And maybe it's a little bit more, he gets his strength from the sword. So if you think a little bit like Lion-O, Thundercats kind of thing, it's Thundercats, so the sword becomes a little bit more powerful when he uses that. Maybe instead of him transforming all the time, maybe it's a little bit like, if you think maybe a little bit like Shazam in a sense, you could, if you're going to do it changing, I probably would have the same actor as Adam or not, but he could change back and forth, but I think he'd be more related to the sword. She kind of is in the cartoon.
He's got the power when he wields the sword, kind of thing.
Yeah, because he kind of does in the cartoon. He has to wield the sword and say those words, kind of thing. So yeah, I'm in two minds about that. So I like your idea, but then I want that I have the power consistently.
Of course. So, I think it's like, okay, well, he goes on a journey, a bit of training, whatever, blah blah blah. Gets the sword, and when finally, almost like a sword in the stone moment sort of thing, lifts it for the first time. I have the power. Okay, we now refer to him kind of as He-Man for the rest of the story, as opposed to
cool. All right, Neil, what's your take?
Have your cake and eat it too.
Me, I was totally the other way. I was like, I'm 100% with the change in my two actors. I'm like,
you're on that Clark Kent Superman thing going.
Yeah, I want my I literally you mentioned Shazam. That was literally my mindset was, this is Shazam meets, I guess you could say, meets Game of Thrones. In as much as we've got creatures and dragons and things of that nature, but it's basically Shazam in the Dark Ages, because and when we get into casting, it'll kind of flesh out why I feel that way. But I'm just it's because for me, I think I always kind of look at something like, say, Spider-Man, right? Where, and especially with things like Far From Home and Homecoming, is the duality of the hero and the protagonist being separate, looking separate, feeling separate. So it's sort of because I like the idea of He-Man coming onto the scene and basically King Randor being like Adam, I want you to become that.
Yeah.
I want you to grow up into that, because it's more because when from the beginning, when you put in the list of all the different episodes, you put in He-Man, and I was like, oh, He-Man, wow. I started going through the original He-Man Masters Universe cartoon, and then I went to I think it was 2001 version.
The updated one. Yeah, the
updated one, and in that one, it was it wasn't in the original you can clearly.
We're not talking He-Man in space, are we?
No. This is it looks like He-Man, it acts like He-Man, it's He-Man. He when you watch that film, he there is a big divide between Prince Adam and He-Man. And it's the fact that, Prince Adam is kind of unsure of himself, and it's clear he's got boots to fill.
Yeah.
And He-Man is just there. But there was a very interesting thing that happened in one of those episodes where you see that He-Man, that the He-Man that Prince Adam becomes looks identical to almost the original He-Man from way back, before King Randor and everything, their original ancestor,
right?
Almost identical to He-Man. And I think, oh, that I liked that because it meant that it was like the power that comes from the sword, so the power of Grayskull and that. It's like we have a set hero, like a set type or archetype that you turn into.
Right. Okay.
You turn into what you turn into is what he looked like.
Yeah.
So there's almost like there's a reason behind it more, and I feel like, you know, if I'm in control, this is He-Man. This is something we're gonna have, you know, 3 and 4 and 5 sequels. This is something that I'm like, we're gonna explore all of these things.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm like, nah, I need my divide.
Yeah, I suppose it gives you a chance. Yeah. I think it gives you a chance to. Yeah, I think it gives you a chance to explore the mythos behind it. You know, so you wouldn't want to delve into it too much in the first movie, but in sequels, he can go back and like complete his journey, complete some learnings and stuff like that.
Yeah,
so, you know, a little bit like Luke in Star Wars. You know, he has to become what he needs to be to get through that first part. But then go back and really study it and just, you know, really, you know, get to grips with what he's taken on. And I suppose the conflict of having that dual identity always plays well on film. You know, having to protect those around you, having that secret identity. And yeah, it's going to get me 2 figures. So Prince Adam and He-Man. So yeah, everyone's gonna have to buy both, right? So, so yeah. So I think you may have swayed me there. But I think if I was going for the mature version, then I would have gone with Alex's, I think. So I think if it was like that real like Game of Thrones, if it was like bloody R-rated, you know, little, you know, then I think I would have gone with him just going on that journey and becoming, and then taking over as king and sort of like leading as He-Man and just kind of have that that kind of power struggle between him and Skeletor. So, okay. So let's have some thoughts on casting, because I think that'll play out maybe a little bit into the stories as well. So I'm not completely sold on who they've casted at the moment. I'm not sold at all. Let me be honest.
I'm sorry. The gentleman is
very left field. I don't think if you were to put betting out on there, no one would have picked him. You know, it's just like he's come out of nowhere. But to be fair, you know, he's got another superhero movie coming, and obviously The Rock, the Dwayne Johnson, seen something in him for Black Adam. He's going into that universe. So, but as a main lead, I have my doubts. So let's first start with the main character. So let's start with He-Man. Who have you guys got as thoughts for He-Man?
I only had for a very, very long time, I only had one person cast, and then literally yesterday I was like, well, maybe like this person could work as well because of the duality.
Okay.
My number 1 pick is Chris Hemsworth.
Right.
And my number 2 pick is John Cena.
Interesting. Okay.
I purposely avoided the Chris Hemsworth thing just because I think the look would be just too similar to Thor, personally. So I was initially thinking, you've got Alexander Skarsgård when he did Tarzan. He had like the long hair and he's got the look. But I think my number 1 pick would be, only sort of popped into my head because it was announced a few days ago. He's just been cast as Jack Reacher, and that's that Alan Richardson, I think is his name. He's also Hawk in Titans, if anyone's seen Titans.
Oh, yeah.
He's definitely got like the bulk and sort of like the physique for it. You know, grow his hair out a bit for that He-Man pro. And I think he could, you know, especially again, I think less unknown, so therefore you've got kind of less baggage as well. You know, sometimes that's the thing with, you know, your main character in particular, you know, you bring that. As much as I love Ben Affleck as Batman, you do have, you know, when he was first announced, obviously you're like, oh, what, Ben Affleck? So you've got that kind of, that sort of baggage where obviously, I don't know, I mean, I'm sure he's done a few movies and stuff, but I know him primarily from a couple of TV things that he's done. And so I just think a little bit out of left field, but I think he's got personally more the look than obviously the guy you mentioned, Ken, that's already been cast. He doesn't need to bulk up. He's already, he's already pretty heavy in terms of muscles.
No, that's a good shout. So I had 2 people in mind. Yeah, I thought about Chris Hemsworth. I think if, my only counter was Thor, whether it be something too similar, and was it a bit too on the nose. So I kind of had 2. One because of, from what I've seen of him in The Witcher, was Henry Cavill. He's got the build, and he's got that presence. He's he's already had that dual personality, and I think he could pull off the Prince Adam and the He-Man vibe. The other one was Anthony Starr from The Boys.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, Homelander.
Homelander.
Yeah. And he also did a show called Banshee.
Banshee.
And you know, he's phenomenal in that. And I think that, you know, I think he could kind of pull that off. If you take away the blonde hair that he has in, because I probably wouldn't do He-Man as blonde, maybe depending on the character. It might be brown, might be blonde, but that's a very bleached blonde he's got for Homelander. But it's I think he can put it off. He's got the intensity, and I think he can show some vulnerability and stuff like that. So that's interesting. We've all gone for somebody different though, and I think He-Man's a really difficult one to cast because you do want the look, but you do want somebody who can act. I kind of see where you're going with John Cena a little bit. I'm just wondering whether I could take him serious as He-Man, because I kind of always see him as John Cena in whatever he does is John Cena in that movie. Yeah, and I think that would be my struggle with him. But from a kid's selling point of view, that would work.
Yeah, I think one of the reasons why it was always Chris Hemsworth was the number one pick. The reason John Cena kind of came into my mind, one, because as I said, like a lot of the time I was looking at it from the point of view of like, well, this is going to be in a kind of similar vein to Shazam. So it's going to be like, okay, yes, it's for all audiences, but primarily, you know, like the highest rating this film will get will be like a 12A. Right? So it's for that kind of audience, that kind of group of individuals. You know, I want people to take their younger kids to see this. I want us to be like, you know, people of our age or older taking, you know, their young children or their younger siblings to be like, yeah, this is what I watched when I was a kid, you know, that kind of feeling. And I feel like there needs to be kind of moments where even in He-Man form, where the fact that Prince Adam is still mentally Prince Adam, that comes into play. And I feel like, well, that's going to be a moment of kind of a bit comedic, and I'm going to need a John Cena for that. Yeah.
Okay. Right. Well, let's stick to the heroes. So what about Man at Arms? Did you guys have some ideas?
Yeah.
I was conflicted whether to go older or somebody who is or somebody not too dissimilar in age from what He-Man might be. So I wanted Man at Arms to be a little bit more hands-on, especially in battle. And I feel that if you cast too old, that'll kind of maybe look out of place. So the two that I went for Man at Arms, I've got Christian Bale,
right,
or Carl Urban. And those are the two I had at Man at Arms, because I actually want Man at Arms to be a little bit more same level. So when King is looking at his son, it's like you said, that little comparison thing. This guy's in my army, you should be stepping up and being like him, rather than being too similar in age to the King kind of thing. So it's a real up and comer, somebody who's got something about them, and they, you know, they've just developed themselves and just, you know, enforce themselves on the kingdom and their soldiers as somebody that they demand respect from, kind of thing. Yeah. What about you guys?
I went for the traditional older.
Yeah.
Just like a more seasoned vet, as it were. I've got two picks. One just to throw in that sort of 80s kind of throwback feel as well is Lou Diamond Phillips. I don't know if I've been watching him on Prodigal Son at the moment. He's got sort of salt and pepper beard and all that kind of stuff. So he just looks like a little bit older, sort of grizzled look to him. Although I think my number one pick would probably be Isaiah Morales. He was the most recent thing I've seen him in again is Titans. He was Deathstroke in the second season.
Oh, yes.
And I just think, although he is that little bit older, I mean, he's pretty badass in that. He was also in Ozark recently as well, playing one of the like cartel heads. So yeah, I just think he's got that. He's still got like sort of like the look and the moves, but got that sort of older, mature, sort of veteran of war kind of feel about him.
I like that. Yeah, some good picks there. Yeah.
In a true nil fashion, I had 5. But it was like I had 3 older and 2 somewhat younger.
Okay.
So like my 3 older, I had Liam Cunningham.
Oh yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So I had Liam Cunningham, Game of Thrones for those. Yeah. I also had Rory McCann from Game of Thrones, the Hound.
Oh right. Okay. Oh yeah. Not a bad shot. We haven't seen really in much else, have we?
And I also had what's his name from Avatar, Stephen.
Oh, I know who you mean.
Yeah.
General.
Yeah. I know exactly who you mean. I can't think of his name now.
Yeah, I can't remember his last name, unfortunately.
I was actually, he was going to be one of my picks actually initially as well.
Yeah,
I can't remember his last name. But
yeah, he's in a TV show called Into the Badlands, and I'm like, yeah, he's a guy. He's a guy, like, you know. Yeah, I see him and I'm like, yeah, I'd do what you tell me in a war, you know. But for younger,
Stephen Lang.
Yes, thank you, Stephen Lang.
Yeah.
Right. But for younger, I can't, because everything kind of ties into the fact of like, I also remember that Man at Arms is Tila's father.
Yeah.
So his age, the way he is with her, kind of will need to be reflected in his age.
It's a good point, to be honest. Yeah.
If I make him too old, then I'm like, you're out of touch with her. But if I make him somewhat a little younger, then I'm like, oh, okay, like you guys could have a genuine relationship. You know, it would impact the relationship. So my 2 ideas for younger, and you're going to find out that a lot of my cast are like interchangeable with other characters.
Yeah.
But my number 2, my 2 younger ones were Kevin Durand.
Okay. Yeah.
Right. Who's like, I mean, everything I see him in, he's brilliant.
I'll say he's in everything.
Everything, like he's in the Russell Crowe Robin Hood. He's in he's in a lot. Like he's the Blob in Wolverine Origins.
Yeah, I was saying he's been X-Men. He was in Legion. Yeah.
So him, but my gold tick person was Dave Bautista.
Okay. Yeah, I've got him as another character, but yeah. Okay.
Oh no, trust me, like he's interchangeable. He's in more than one lineup. He's in more than one lineup, but yeah, he was my like, oh yeah, Man at Arms. Yeah, he's the guy.
So nobody went for Liam Neeson?
I got him in a different role.
Yeah.
I tried to go where possible. I tried to go a little bit sort of unknown with sort of what I consider the more sort of higher profile characters, and then a little bit more mainstream actors for some of like the, you know, what would end up being like the smaller parts. I don't know why. It's just kind of the way it sort of rolled out for me. So you've got a couple of big names to get some attention to it, but the sort of the core group would be a little bit less known.
Okay. Some good choices there. Yeah, I think I might have gone too young when I think about who I want as Tila. So I quite like Stephen Lang. I have to say that could be one. Okay, so let's talk about Tila. We mentioned a couple of times. Who do you have down for Tila?
I had 3 picks. I had Brianna Hildebrand.
Okay, yeah.
She's like teenage Negasonic
Warhead.
Oh, right, yeah.
So her, because I'm just like, you know, she's young. She ties into. I basically had to pick her based on. I picked Tila based on who I would pick as Prince Adam.
Right.
So, yeah. So it was like, because it's, you know, there has to be that kind of connection between them. So it was her, Natalie Dormer.
What's she been in?
Game of Thrones.
Right. Yeah.
Is it Marjorie Tyrell?
Yeah, Marjorie Tyrell. Or Jessica Henwick. She's in Iron Fist.
Oh yeah. I know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was also in Game of Thrones as one of the Sand Sisters.
And sisters, yeah.
Yeah. So those were my three.
Okay, cool. Alex, what about yourself?
Well, obviously, with my casting of Man at Arms with primarily Latina actors, I had to, because of the relationship, look down that route. So my top pick was, I believe it's pronounced Isa Gonzalez, who the thing I most know her from was, did any of you see Dusk Till Dawn, the TV
Yeah,
show?
the TV show.
Oh, right,
She
yeah.
was Santanico in that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
My other potential pick, I had to look her up because I've only seen her in a couple of things, but the most recent thing was, again on Netflix, that Six Underground with Ryan Reynolds.
Oh, yeah.
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 I think she played 5, and I think her name is Adria Arjano, I believe is her name. But again, being in Six Underground, very action orientated, that kind of thing. So
Yeah.
when I'm thinking more Game of Thrones battles and that kind of stuff, she would definitely be able to handle herself with a sword and all that kind of stuff in my mind from the film. So those were my two.
I just thought somebody else from Man at Arms for me. Nikolaj Coster-Waldau.
Oh,
from Game of Thrones.
the hand.
Yeah. Yeah, because I think you can make him look older than what he is as well.
Yeah.
You can hold him up. Because who I have for Tila is Gina Carano from Mandalorian.
Yeah.
I wanted someone who wasn't a typical person you might think of as in Tila, where it's just about what they look like. You know, kind of like slim and, you know, attractive. The way that Gina Carano has kind of taken that Mandalorian, she's starting, you know, she's a warrior, she's bolt up. Even when she did like the Fast and Furious stuff and stuff like that, you know, she contained a little bit of Deadpool and stuff like that. She's not overly sexualized, but there's something about her. You know, that she portrays this different kind of sexiness and attractiveness, which is kind of probably associated with his role a little bit. So yeah, that's who I went. I only had the one for her, to be honest. So right, let's run through some of the other heroes that we have here. So I've got loads. So what about the sorceress?
Oh, I had, where is she? I had 3 names for that. My absolute number 1 draft pick would be Sarah Paulson.
Okay.
Oh, okay, yeah, okay.
Yeah. American Horror Story and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Her, because I just think she's a brilliant actress, and when I think of like the look of the sorceress, I kind of feel like she fits that role. Like she looks like in the most non like, oh, you look weird kind of way. She looks otherworldly, if that makes sense. Like I imagine like down the line somewhere she'd play like, you know, an angel type figure or a, you know,
I've got someone for a very similar basic reason in that.
So it was her. I think Emily Blunt would kind of do it. I feel like
okay,
she's a pretty good choice, and Emilia Clarke, because she needs something. She needs something since Game of Thrones.
Okay. I've kind of got Emilia Clarke as potentially somebody else. So okay. Alex, who do you have?
So for probably number 1 pick, I'd say is Noomi Rapace or Rapace.
Oh yeah.
From
Prometheus.
Prometheus, that was one thing. Yeah. Again, going along the lines of what Neil was saying about the sort of otherworldly look, she was also in that Will Smith Bright, the Netflix movie.
Yeah.
She was like the lead bad, was it Elf or whatever she was supposed to be. So again, just for that sort of like otherworldly kind of look. And then just a sort of left field sort of Game of Thrones kind of throwback. I thought Lena Headey, just to flip it so that she's like the epitome of good, as opposed to evil.
I got her in another role.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Well, I think she's actually doing the voice of Evil Lynn in the
Kevin Smith's animated. Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
I thought of that after I thought of her, so I thought, oh, that's why I thought, okay, I'll throw Nemi.
Which actually works even better because it was like, oh hey, look, here she is as a bad person, and here she is the epitome of
as a good one. Yeah. I went for Nicole Kidman. Just kind of that, pale, angelic kind of face, looks kind of softly spoken, kind of thing. So yeah, that I just went for her, to be honest. So because when I'm doing my trailer, I need all these Oscar winners in my trailer.
Yeah, that's all it is. You look at your trailer, and it's just like every character has like one or two lines, and it's just like, boom.
Yeah, well, that's it, because
boom.
The ones that are kind of it's starring, and so she'd be like starring and Nicole Kidman, because she's going to be in a very small period. She's the one that parts the wisdom, and normally those big players are the ones who get to do that. So
at the end of the opening credits, it's and Nicole Kidman as the sorceress.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh no, when we get to another character, you're going to see where I got and
okay.
That's the
So for Orko, I've got Taika Waititi, because he's just going to be a CG character, and I just thought he could just make it that hilarious. So he's my pick for Orko.
I had him as not Taika Waititi. Sorry, I had Orko down as Peter Dinklage.
Who's that?
Tyrion.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah.
If I remember correctly, I've never played this game, but I remember the trailer for the game Destiny.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember that he was the voice of like the little side robot that's with the character.
Oh,
and
okay.
I kind of looked at it as like a bit more of a comedic version of Jarvis for Iron Man.
Mm-hmm.
But also because I know he's got comedy chops from things like In Bruges.
Yeah.
Where I think like, I want the characters to be funny, so I think Taika Waititi is actually a way better shout. But I was like, yeah, Dinklage, he could do it.
Yeah,
like,
he could do
funny.
For me, with my serious version, I probably wouldn't have Orko in it, but I did think of someone for it. Again, it would be CGI, and I was going for the voice of Alan Tudyk.
I put him with somebody else. Yeah,
I love voice work. I didn't realize he played both. I knew he did the Joker in the new Harley Quinn animated, but he also does Clayface as well.
Oh yeah, new Harley Quinn show is fantastic.
Obviously, iRobot and Rogue One.
And he was in Rogue One.
So he's done a lot of voice and done a lot of voice work. So he's got the chops for that, I think.
Okay. So we'll move on to so for this one, I had actually Alan Tudyk as Manny Faces.
Okay.
So I thought he could have potentially a physical presence, but then obviously he can play 3-4 different characters, which that one may do. So actually, so I had him down for that. So Manny Faces, have you guys got anything down for him?
He was not on my list, no, because
all right, cool.
That's just a handful of people, otherwise.
We've got Stratos.
Yes.
So I have down Michael B. Jordan.
Okay.
Which one was again?
He's like the Birdman.
Birdman.
Oh, okay.
So that's who I had down for that. So a little bit like Falcon vibes, So but Stratos, Michael B. Jordan's my pick.
Okay.
I think he can provide a little bit because obviously he's kind of a little bit like He-Man's right-hand man in a sense. He tends to be one who's with him for quite a bit. And he could be a good sounding board. I think there could be a good repertoire between him and Henry Cavill and stuff like that. So so that was my pick. Did you guys have anybody?
Yeah, I've got a couple. Again, in the sort of storyline I was kind of thinking of, he's going to be sort of an older character. So and sort of a mentor kind of figure.
Yeah.
So I've got, and I still was thinking about people who look cool in goggles as well. So I've got Idris Elba. Just got that sort of like rough and ready sort of look to him. But I also thought, for some reason, the story I was thinking of was like Last Samurai vibes. So I thought Ken Watanabe, he played like the leader of the samurais in that.
Yeah.
And also was the fiction, the sort of Ra's al Ghul that wasn't really Ra's al
Yeah,
Ghul in
Yeah.
Batman Begins. Just for that sort of older, wiser, wizardy kind. Not that character is a wizard, but just for that sort of that vibe of being
the old men,
sort of a mentor and a sort of a leader. You know, in my mind, I did a little bit of research. He's like, there was like a whole race of the bird people. So he's like the leader of them. So again, just someone that's got a little bit older.
Cool.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's a good shout. It's a really good shout.
Lead a group of people. So that was my 2 picks for him.
Neil, did you cast this one at all?
I didn't. I literally only focused on like the absolute
core. Yeah.
Yeah.
So my other kind of one who you selected for another one. So this was Ram Man, and I have that as Dave Bautista. So Dave Bautista is my Ram Man. Big lunky guy, and you know, probably again provide a little bit of comedy when necessary. I'll just do my other couple. So for King Randor, I had Dolph Lundgren. Had to be.
I'd say him actually.
Yeah, pass the torch.
It's his cameo.
Yeah, Queen Marlena, I had as Michelle Pfeiffer.
Totally didn't have him.
So Queen Marlena, I had Michelle Pfeiffer. And I also did a casting of She-Ra because I thought I'd probably have to introduce her at some point. And so either I had Emily Blunt for that.
Right.
Or Blake Lively. And I kind of thought Blake Lively simply because of that new trailer that she's out where she's doing that action film. I'm trying to think what it's called now.
Oh yeah, the trailer came out a little while back, though, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like a revenge type thing. It looks like a bit like.
Yeah. What's that?
The rhythm section.
That's the rhythm section. Yeah. So based on her, I was like, oh, you know, she's got the physicality part of it as well. So I had Blake Lively down as She-Ra. So, but did you guys have any other heroes? Anybody else you?
Yeah. The only one I threw in there because as I was just like looking through like pictures of characters.
Yeah.
The character of like Fisto just like stood out. He just looked like, to me, just like a roguish Scotsman. So I thought Gerard Butler with a massive like metal fist, sort of like acting a bit drunk. It just seemed like if you wanted a bit of levity in there, but that was the only one.
This is Eternia.
Yeah, I'd say the King Randor. I had Dolph Lundgren the same. Unless you want to go like real serious, in which case I had Viggo Mortensen, but my number 1 pick would be Dolph. So
yeah, Mortensen would have been my other one. Yeah,
sort of a King Conan thing that Arnie hasn't had a chance to do yet. You let Dolph do it instead.
Yeah.
See, I actually had King Randor as I had 3 picks. As well as the other people came in. I had number 1 pick was actually Mark Hamill.
Oh right, okay, interesting.
Right, because I love the way he looks as old Luke.
Yeah, I was gonna say that vibe. Yeah.
And like, you know, it's because the way I kind of envisioned it is like, I don't need King Randor looking like a total beast because Prince Adam doesn't look like that.
Yeah.
Right. So I just need him to look like, you know, you look at him and you're like, yeah, like I can envision that you took out a whole bunch of people back in the day.
Yeah.
Right. So I had him as number 1 pick. Liam Neeson was my number 2 pick.
Can see that.
And Carl Urban was my 3rd pick for King Randor.
Right. Okay.
Right. And for Prince Adam, I only had 2 picks. One was number 1 pick is Tom Holland.
Right. Okay.
Right. Because it's like I said, everything had to tie in. So it's like to be like, oh yeah, invested in the change from like from Prince Adam to He-Man. I needed someone who was clearly not He-Man, but had the potential to grow up into He-Man. So like we hardly ever see, like, obviously you look at the Spider-Man films or you look at the character of Spider-Man in the MCU. He's supposed to be a teenager, so he's supposed to look kind of a bit skinny, scrawny-ish, but he's actually quite muscular.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm like, you have the potential to grow into
John Cena.
Right? Right. So I had him, and I had Finn Jones from Iron Fist.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Because again, I'm like,
older.
Yeah, he's like an older one, so maybe he's like, you had potential, but you still have a little bit, like maybe you have 50% less potential, but you could still, with some hard work, turn into that person. And yeah, good characters. That was it.
All right, cool.
Yeah, that was it.
Right, now let's have some fun with the villains. So there's only one place to start. Skeletor.
Evelyn!
Yeah. Trapjaw. So Skeletor, who do you have?
Oof, I had.
And would you kind of do a CGI? Would you do prosthetics? How do you think you might try and represent Skeletor?
I'd probably do prosthetics, but at the same time, like prosthetics finished off with CGI.
Mm-hmm.
And that's mainly because, you know, my choices are very, like all four of them are very different from each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I was trying to find the balance of, do I want a CGI character and finding someone who's got the physicality, because Skeletor is just as big as He-Man, you know.
Yeah.
So
it's just the
someone
head
if they're fighting, there is a balance to it. So yeah, so I was kind of torn between the two as well. But yeah, go on, Neil. So who do you have?
Yeah. Sharlto Copley.
Okay.
Right,
Oh,
because
yeah.
I'm like, he's, you know, District 9 and
yeah.
that, right? Because I'm sure I'm probably one of the only guys who loves this film, but Elysium, I love that film Elysium.
Oh, Elysium, yeah. Matt Damon one, yeah.
And my gosh, if he wasn't the best thing in there as the villain, Kruger, like there was bits like, I mean, I remember him throwing the exploding dart into a guy and he's like, it's just a flesh wound, you know? And it's like when he slaps Alicia Braga and he's like, you know, he's talking to her all calmly and he asks her a question and she's like, I don't know. And he slaps her and he's like, do you remember now?
Yeah.
Right? Like that craziness. I'm like, yeah, you could be my Skeletor. Right? But for going like pound for pound, size for size, I had Henry Cavill.
Nice, yeah.
Henry Cavill would be, because I feel like looking at him in The Witcher, and the thing is, like from the 2001 He-Man cartoon, the first episode, you see what Skeletor looked like when he was King Randor's brother, when he was, you know, what he looked like as a man. And I'm like, to go from looking like a man to having a skull for a face, are like, if you were the quote unquote good looking man, it would drill in you even more. It would make you more evil, because you was like, I was that guy, you know.
Yeah. And
I think Henry Cavill would be like the greatest shout, because he because of the fact that he would for one, his physical presence, but also playing off my idea of having Mark Hamill as King Randor, it would be that thing of, well, here's the guy who you should see as your king, who's of like, you know, the old king, strong, powerful, you know, you got the look.
Yeah.
And Mark Hamill, who's definitively shorter than he is and definitively less muscular, like, this is who your king should be. This is who your king is. But it's just based on the physical persona, because obviously, like, mentally, internally, one is morally high, who was the shorter one, and the other was morally low, who was the taller one.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. So yeah, those two. And even though I feel that this person would probably be a way better Orko than Skeletor, for some reason my completely left field choice was Ryan Reynolds.
A Skeletor? Wow.
Yeah, because I'm just remembering the original Skeletor was hilarious.
Yeah.
I'm not nice. All of that. I'm like, yeah. Ryan could pull that off.
If I was doing this in the early 2000s, late 90s, you could have probably had Jim Carrey, but there you go.
Yeah. And Danny Houston, because you can't go wrong with a Danny Houston bad guy.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Alex, who do you have?
So my kind of left field pick, and this was just out of a conversation I was having with a couple of friends last week when we were planning on doing this, is Cillian Murphy.
Nice.
Yeah. Again, I would go prosthetics rather than CG. But there's a few of his films I've seen where he's got that sort of like gaunt face kind of to start with anyway, so you probably wouldn't have to build up the sort of prosthetics that much. Obviously, he doesn't have that same sort of physicality as my picks for He-Man. So my more sort of number one choice, there's kind of two. Well, initially I was thinking I like the idea of John Lithgow as like the voice of Skeletor.
I can.
Oh yeah.
He's also got that sort of height to him as well. He's got to be at least
he's really tall. Yeah.
6'4" or something like that. But obviously, due to his age, probably wouldn't be able to do the physical side of things. So I was thinking, although I feel bad that Doug Jones always gets, like his voice always gets dubbed over.
Yeah.
He's used to like seriously heavy prosthetics for a lot of the stuff that he does. He is also like really tall. I mean, I don't know if any of you watch Star Trek Discovery, but you can sort of see how sort of like tall and lanky he is in that. So although he doesn't have sort of like the muscles to go sort of toe to toe with He-Man, my idea is, obviously he's got the height, and then he'd have more of like the sorcery kind of side of it.
Sorcery powers rather than physical power.
Fighting with swords and that kind of stuff. He'd sort of have more like a power behind him in that kind of sense. So yeah, my idea would be Doug Jones' body, and then John Lithgow doing the voice.
Nice. Who turned down the role of the Joker in the '89 Batman, didn't he? So
actually, you're right. He did, yeah.
Right. So for my Skeletor, I've got Idris Elba. Pretty much from Heimdall. If you think of him in that gold suit that he wears in Thor, that helmet and those eyes and stuff like that, I'm like, I could see.
That's very Master of the Universe, like the old movie.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. It changes at the end, right? And
that gold armor. Yeah.
So it kind of got me thinking, and that's kind of where I connected it. I was like, oh, okay. So yes, I've got Idris Elba as my Skeletor because I think he's got the physical presence. We know Idris can be a bad man. So he's my pick. Right, moving on. Evil Lynn. I went quite simple on this because I think there is much more of a seduction to Evil Lynn than, like, say, Teela and stuff like that. So that's why I kind of different. Charlize Theron. She's my Evil Lynn.
I actually had her down as the Queen.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
So she's my Evil Lynn because I think we've seen signs of a little bit of that in like Fast and Furious, where she's playing the bad guy. But I think if she could probably really ham this up a little bit. But she can, as much as she can do blockbuster films, she can do the serious stuff. And so depending on how you want it, she can deliver what you need.
Yeah, she was also the Queen in Snow White and the Huntsman.
Oh yeah, actually I didn't think about that. Yeah.
I never saw that.
But yeah, if you did this like 20 years ago, you probably would have picked forgetting her name now. The one who played the Queen in Maleficent, Angelina Jolie. This was like 20 years ago. You probably pick her for Evil Lynn, but so
I actually picked her as Evil Lynn in this.
There you go. Well, because she's in Eternals and stuff like that. She definitely has that vibe about her, doesn't she? So she can do evil like very easily.
I'm not like that ageist in Hollywood, like, oh, you're an old woman now. So
what you got to do is take off the Maleficent wings, and like she pretty much looks the part.
That's true. That's very true, actually.
So I'm like, she was number one pick. I also had Monica Baccarin.
Oh yeah.
Vanessa in Deadpool.
Yeah.
And Lena Headey.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. She would have been my second choice.
I'm like, people, they know her as Cersei. I'm like, look, I saw her as Sarah Connor in the Terminator TV show, and I saw her as Queen Ogorgo in 300. I'm like, she's done her hero work for me.
Yeah.
Like,
because she's the bad guy in Dread as well, isn't she? She's Mama in
Dread. I'm like,
she's like proper like dark in that. So.
Yeah, and then if you see her in like Fighting with My Family, completely different.
Yeah.
So Alex, who did you have?
For me, I had two, so I went sort of like one younger, one older. Again, just to sort of flip it. So if I had Lena Headey as, say, like the sorceress, the flip side would be Natalie Emmanuel from Game of Thrones as Evelyn. So switch from the Sunday as, especially their final confrontation, obviously getting them, spoiler alert, beheaded by the other one. Just to sort of flip that. So one is the epitome of good and one sort of the epitome of evil.
Okay.
And then, but probably if I was going to go older, again, Star Trek Discovery shout. I quite like Michelle Yeoh. She plays,
Oh, cool.
especially the sort of like the mirror universe version of her character.
Yeah.
She's kind of like an empress and a leader. She's got a real sort of evil nature there, and also is like a spy. So she's very sort of duplicitous and sort of plays both sides and all that kind of stuff. So I just think she could sort of do something quite interesting.
I can see that. I can see that. Okay, what about Beastman?
There's only one.
Go on.
Ron Perlman. He's used the Hellboy makeup, which is also red.
I've got Ron Perlman and someone else. I had him as three different characters at one point, and I was like, but yeah, I can see.
Yeah, to be fair, there are a few others I could have picked him for, but I just thought, no, you know what? That's it.
Beastman, I went Jason Momoa.
Okay. Yeah.
Add a little bit more hair, and I think he can do it. I can see him snarling away and stuff like that. But yeah.
Yeah, actually, no, I agree. I'm just looking at in my head, I have a vision of him smiling, and I'm like, give him a couple fangs. That's the dude.
Yeah. What about you, Beastman? No.
Oh, it's hard to go beyond, obviously, you know, Perlman or Momoa, but I think for Beastman, it's weird because a lot of these characters now, like everyone else, is so kind of mainly heavily make-upped.
Yeah, it is.
Right? I'm like, you know,
actually, there's a lot of characters that would be like either sort of CG.
Yeah,
that's right.
In Master of the Universe. So yeah, it's one of those things you could just go like nobodies for pretty much everyone, and either just stick to that or do nobodies and like a voiceover with someone. Or...
That's right. Yeah. So I actually had Ron Perlman down for Trapjaw.
Okay.
So he was my choice for Trapjaw.
Okay. In that case, then my choice for Trapjaw was going back to yours was Michael B. Jordan.
Oh, nice.
I just think he did such a good job as Killmonger, although he was the bad guy, but you could see his point of view in Black Panther. I just think if he just went like full on bad guy and like you know, I mean, he's already done prosthetics with like the chest piece and that.
Yeah.
You go full on like mechanical arm and the jaw and everything. I just think something that he's never done before and could be quite interesting.
Well, who else have I got? I've got for Merman. For me, there was only one. That was Andy Serkis.
I had the same.
Yeah. it had
I don't even know why I thought of it, but it's just like, I don't know, just something about it just said, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's because of because I thought about him for Beastman because of the Planet of the Apes stuff, and you know he could probably do a little bit of that movement and stuff like that he's used to. But I saw Merman probably is a little bit more like Gollum, but just
I was kind of
up. And because of that, you know, Merman's speech and stuff like that, I thought he could really deliver that more than anybody else. So
yeah, I was kind of the same on yours.
Neil, what other villains have you got?
It's weird because I can't like initially like look at it and be like, oh yeah, that person, and I'm like, no, it was like they all kind of just blend together, especially with their names.
It is very much a case of they all going to be CGI because I had David Harbour as Triclops. So I had him down.
Now, David Harbour, it's weird when I think I remember saying that every character, like people were interchangeable.
Yes.
David Harbour, he could be a great man of arms.
Yeah, actually.
Great man of arms.
It might be something similar to what he's playing in Black Widow, isn't it? You know, you can kind of see that parental kind of guy kind of thing. So,
I mean, if we were doing this 20 years ago, John Goodman is my only man at arms.
And then I went, I also cast Hordak, and I couldn't pretty much look any further than Giancarlo Esposito, who's just the bad man in everything. just like, so I think with him and Idris Elba, Skeletor and Hordak, that could work.
Actually, you know what? I wanted interchangeables. So I think Sholto Copley can play Trapjaw.
Who was that?
Sholto Copley.
Oh yeah,
yeah. He could be my Trapjaw.
Did you guys have any other characters that I haven't mentioned?
No, that was pretty much it, mate, for me.
Cool.
Although the more I think about it now, I kind of feel as well like Javier Bardem could be Skeletor.
Oh yeah, could work.
Mm.
Quite sinister, yeah, quite sinister if you go that old country. Well, I suppose he's done it for that. He also did Bond, didn't he?
Yeah, he was also
Creepy.
in one of the Pirates of the Caribbeans.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
so
yeah, I didn't see that one. That was the last one, wasn't it?
yeah.
Well, I'm just like, I saw the trailer, so I was like, yeah, I see you can deal with CG and you can deal with prosthetics.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what they deliver with this movie. I'm probably quite fearful for it when it does come out. I mean, the good thing is we have the new animated series coming on Netflix from Kevin Smith. It's pretty much going to pick up where the original cartoon left off. So it's going to be a continuation, which is great. So I'm definitely going to have to go back and rewatch those originals. And it'll be interesting to see whether they try and do some flashbacks, but use the current animation, or whether they're just going to explain where he is. You know, is he just He-Man and they're just moving on with their adventures that everybody's established, which seems to be the way they're going. So it's going to be interesting to see how they do it. Did you ever see the She-Ra series on Netflix?
No,
I haven't seen it either, because I'm wondering whether they're going to try and tie that in, or whether it's going to be completely separate. Because I think that She-Ra animated was its own thing, right? It didn't have any.
Yeah, it's its own thing. It went for a while.
Isn't that a little bit aimed younger audience?
Definitely younger in terms of its animation. Yeah, its animation, its style, its casting. I think is very much more kid friendly. So where I think this one is going to be more. I mean, I think it's still going to be more Saturday morning cartoon vibe, because I think they do need to keep that. So it'd be really interesting to see what they do with it. It's going to be really interesting.
I've got a strange feeling there are two. I don't know if they're both on Netflix, but I'm sure I remember seeing an interview with Kevin Smith and he was talking about the He-Man thing. And I think there is also another He-Man anime, which is going to be very much like young audience. And so I think
you're right.
Probably, like you say, still kid friendly enough.
Yeah.
But I think it's a bit more geared towards sort of like maybe our generation who remembers the original series. So I think there's I'm not sure if they are both Netflix. I think
I think you're right. And to be honest, that probably other one would be probably more in the similar vein of She-Ra.
Probably, yes. So that one might actually be.
And have it a little bit more related to that in terms of that age content and stuff like that. Yeah. Okay, well, that's He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. We'll see if and when we get it. Like I say, the cameras haven't started rolling yet. Who knows what's going to happen with this movie? They're not going to have the budget that we had, I think, in terms of actors. So
that's why I went small.
Yeah. So we'll have to see what we can do. That's it for this episode. So Alex and Neil, where can we find you on social media?
Shoot for Moon pics on Instagram. That's about it.
I'm on Instagram at Lex_Doman. It's only personal, nothing professional. So
cool. And you
sorry, Ken.
Go on, go ahead. Can
I just happily admit that even though it's nothing to do with the TV show, like I do genuinely thoroughly enjoy the He-Man movie, like Masters of the Universe, the movie with Dolph Lundgren. Like I know it
has some good moments.
It does. I mean, I remember watching it as a kid and enjoying it. You know, so, and I think that's kind of just stayed with me. And I know you look at it back at it now and think, wow, it's really not He-Man. But at the time when it came out, when did it come out?
1989 was it?
I was going to say, I think 89.
Yeah, because I think it was like the same year as Batman or something, wasn't it? So
because it came out and it was like
87.
87 it came out.
As early as that. Okay.
Yeah, 87. So, I would have only been like 6 at the time. So for me, that was just kind of cool. It was just like, there's the key thing, like playing the music and I remember like cool Skeletor as that kind of age. He looked creepy as hell. And that was a great performance. He hammed it up and he said he actually really enjoyed playing it.
The Skeletor was great, actually. Frank Langella's Skeletor was good.
Yeah.
That moment, see, that's the thing. I forever remember that moment where I can't remember, somebody says something to him and he's like, I, Skeletor.
Yeah. And they even did an after credit scene on that movie back in 80s.
Yeah, where he pops up at the grate, at the lake.
And the interesting thing was they actually run out of money at the end. And so that final fight between He-Man and Skeletor, that was literally just filmed in a day, and they just did it down this corridor and tried to make it look good with lighting and stuff like that. But they had a much bigger final fight figured out for them and stuff like that. But all their funding just kind of run out, and they just had to wrap it up pretty quick to meet a release date. So
didn't they took funding away from another film? I think they either took funding away from a film to use.
I think you might be right there.
or they took funding away from He-Man to put into another film.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you're right, and I'm trying to think where I saw it. It might have even been on the Netflix show The Toys That Made Us, because I think they touched on the movie, and I think then they explained a little bit in there. Yeah,
because there's an actual like solely specific He-Man documentary on Netflix.
Right.
And I just remember like I've seen so many like different documentaries and things about it, and it's been brought up so many times where people are like, oh yeah, there's something about that film where it either had money taken away or it had money put in.
Yeah.
And
Well, it was done by the same production company as Superman 4: Quest for Peace.
I think it might have been that.
So I'm wondering whether the money went to that or something like that.
Yeah, it's either money went to that, or I think it was they took money from Superman and put it into He-Man.
Yeah.
But
I don't think neither improve things.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm having a little look here actually. So it was the film was shut down early, so it had like a $5 million budget. And yeah, so the climactic showdown between He-Man and Skeletor still needed to be shot without a suitable finale, but with no budget. So they basically lobbied Golan Globus and Canon Films to scrape together funds just to recommence the shooting. So it was very much just kind of pushed all the way through, you know, just had to get this done. But it was like none of the villains, except for like Evil Lyn, none of the villains were the same from the show either. You had the guy with the knives and the eye patch, and
I think Beastman was the only one, wasn't Beastman?
Yeah, I think there might have been a Beastman. Yeah,
I think Beastman and Evil Lyn were like the only two, obviously apart from Skeletor, that were
I feel like the guy with the eye patch was supposed to be Trapjaw.
Probably their version of him. Yeah.
I remember the little character with the flute. I thought that was Urko the first time I watched it.
Yeah, exactly. It's like
it was their Orko substitute, really, wasn't it? It's like they can't.
Yeah,
they couldn't do any like a floating guy with that sort of budget and the special effects that were around in those days. So that was their kind of substitute, wasn't it? In that respect, was to create.
Yeah, and I mean, Dolph Lundgren did all his own stunts, but they were very close to dubbing him as well.
Yeah.
Because of his accent, they were really unsure about, you know, how the audience react to him, because he's pretty much coming off Rocky IV, right? Yeah. So they saw him as this Russian guy, and they're like, can we have like this Russian guy who everyone looks at as like Russian, hating him as a Russian, like become like He-Man now? But I think again that would probably just cost more money and stuff. But yeah, there was going to be a sequel to that as well. But it was actually called Masters of the Universe Cyborg.
And it became the film Cyborg.
Exactly that.
The Van Damme film.
Exactly that. So hey, Hollywood's strange. Cool. All right. Well, that's it for this show. And you can follow me on Twitter at Ken and Talks Film. Please let us know your thoughts on this episode. Suggest some movies for us to discuss in the future. And you know, who would you have cast in this movie? Let us know your suggestions in the comments below. You can catch all our episodes on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, SoundCloud. Trying to get it out onto Spotify. We're trying to get everywhere. We're going to be everywhere you look. If you like what we do, please like the video, subscribe, get the notifications for our bi-weekly episodes, and share our podcast across social media. Let everybody know about us. If you don't like us, then share us as well and just say, look at these guys. Hits are hits. Thanks very much for joining me, guys, and until next time.
See ya.
Yeah.